Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. Are very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Then smash the subscribe button and the like button. And please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Now, yesterday I gave a shout out to my niece, Fair, which upset her sisters. So here's a shout out for Maria and Christina, and I better chuck Gabriel in there as well. Right, now I want to take you back to Comic-Con 2017. Let's take a listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is a great guy, and Zach picked a good person to come in and clean up and finish up for him.
So we got some more time. What's your neighbor question? Hello. How's it going, Matt?
Right, so we've heard that. Now look at this. Look at Momoa. Look at Momoa. He looks like he wants to throttle someone. And who can blame him? So why are we going back to that? Well, this is what he said above this video. This is Ray Fisher. I'd like to take a moment to forcefully retract every bit of this statement. So, not many things coming out of Hollywood and this entertainment industry, this corrupt entertainment industry, not many things surprise me that come out of it, right? But you know what does surprise me? When somebody's actually honest. And Ray hasn't been more honest in all of his life. I'm not questioning his honesty, by the way. I'm just saying this is probably the most honest thing he's ever said, because he's finally allowed to say it. So this does, cast dispersions on the relationship and the atmosphere on the Justice League set. Now, we have to understand something, that, those actors were cast by Zack Snyder. And those actors had already filmed the film, his film, right? And they were happy and everyone was content, as we could see in the reel they did when they finished, shooting in London. Everyone was happy. Everyone was excited for this movie. So then Sugihara brings in Joss Whedon, but it goes deeper than that, because they pretended that Zack dropped out because of the death of his daughter, which would have been totally understandable, by the way, right? So they went through all of that because they, either Zack quit or they got rid of Zack. Who knows? We'll never know. It doesn't really matter anymore, right? So they bring in Joss Whedon, right? So he comes in. But Joss Whedon hasn't got any free will here. Joss Whedon has taken 30 pieces of silver because he's obsessed. He's obsessed about reinventing himself after Age of Ultron, right? Because Age of Ultron is a bigger shit show than any of you know, right? So this is a great opportunity. The DCEU is a massive franchise, whatever people said about it and still say about it, right? To do a Batgirl movie was a dream come true for Joss. So he said, I'll take this hit. But he wasn't in charge of that movie. Sugihara said, right, you are rewriting this movie. You're putting jokes in there. You are going to do the MCU formula like you did with your 2 MCU movies, right? Go. And by the way, it's going to be released at the same time Zack's movie was going to be released at. And it's only going to be 2 hours long, or just under 2 hours, right? Joss Whedon has no free will here. So he quickly rewrites nearly the whole movie. They go back and reshoot. There's already rumours that the cast weren't happy with working under him. But you've got to understand where the actors are coming from, but also where Joss Whedon's coming from. All Joss Whedon really did was take a career opportunity, right? He didn't get Zack the sack. He didn't push Zack off the project, but he has an opportunity. An opportunity, by the way, I would have taken, right? But it was an impossible. I don't know if James Gunn had been brought on to do this project, if things would have been different and better. I personally think James Gunn would have been more suited for this situation, and I don't think he would have allowed this movie to be in the state it was when it was released. I think he would have won a few more battles, but Joss was desperate. So then we have to go to histrionics, right? Because Joss Whedon created and wrote 2 of the most iconic television shows that lit the blue touch paper in Buffy and Angel. Then he done that space one, right? And I forgot. He did a little space movie, right? Which was really good, but never became a series. And his fans still want it to be a series, right? So he had a great reputation. Then he did Avengers Assemble. The first Avengers movie made record-breaking money. All of a sudden, superheroes were a niche thing, right? You know, Avengers was a massive movie. He did a good job with it. The writers of the film, along with him, everyone did a good job. It worked. Everyone was singing this guy's praises. Then we went to Avengers Age of Ultron, which I don't think is a terrible movie, by the way. But clearly there were problems with it because it does have issues, right? So he was removed from the MCU after that movie, never to be seen again in that franchise. Why? Why did Feige get rid of him? Because after the first Avengers movie, everybody loved Joss. Publicly, Kevin Feige couldn't say enough. It looked like a partnership made in heaven. But all of a sudden, he was swapped for the Russos, who did a really, really good job, by the way, and did what, you know, Feige wanted. But also, I think they did a lot of things that they wanted to do. It's a good partnership, right? But they've left. But I think they've left because it's time for them to do other stuff. And Feige wants to go in a new direction. Nobody really knows or understands why the Russos would need to go, but they've gone. This is not about the Russos. So anyway, after Age of Ultron, he's gone. He doesn't have a career anymore. He's not doing anything, right? So all of a sudden, we hear the official line that Zack has asked his good friend, Joss Whedon, to, you know, just take over the editing and just cleaning up the Justice League movie. Still Zack's movie, but nothing was going to change. A couple of reshoots that needed doing anyway. I'm not saying these are facts. This is what we were sold, right? And I would dare to say that probably Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder have probably never, ever spoken to each other again. We also know that Joss Whedon was making fun of the Snyder Cut movement just weeks before HBO Max and Zack announced that Zack Snyder's Justice League was a thing and it was actually happening. So I don't think they're very good friends. Do you? Or friends at all? So we were sold a whole lot. Now, Joss Whedon was coming in to do a terrible gig. I don't think I directly blame him for the state of that film. But at the end of the day, there were certain things that he did on that film, like Wonder Woman being on top of Barry Allen. You know, he did it with Black Widow and another character in Age of Ultron as well. So there are some things where you can blame him for. But at the end of the day, he took a career opportunity. But clearly, you know, Ray Fisher and the rest of the Justice League cast members didn't have a good time working with him. Now, there's a guy called Pagey who loves to lick the arses of the elites and the creatives over at Warner Brothers. He's actually had shout-outs from Stephen Amell, a.k.a. Oliver Queen and The Arrow. So he likes to lick some butt, right? And he criticised Ray Fisher coming out, saying it's not Joss Whedon's fault and it was the executive's fault. Listen, Joss Whedon accepted a weird gig. It's as simple as that. Because he accepted a gig where I don't even understand how these people thought this would be a success. I don't really understand it. I don't really know what the thinking was. I know what the thinking was. If we just make it like the Avengers in the MCU, we're going to make $2 billion. They didn't get it. Things that had already been set up. I think there was also an underestimation for the support of Zack Snyder and the support for the Man of Steel film and Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice and what had already been done with Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman. It was Zack's baby. He had cast every single actor, every single person who was working behind the scenes on those films was down to Zack Snyder. It was his world. Then you booted him out. Then a funny thing happened just before Justice League was released, or Justice League, should I say. His ex-wife came out saying he stayed married to her just so he looked like a feminist. I mean, he is a fake feminist. They all are. They all are, these male feminists in Hollywood, right? None of it's real. Of course, Whedon had evidence backing it because he did Buffy, one of the most successful, you know, female-led shows, one of the first female-led shows in America that was actually successful. Of course, you've got Cagney and Lacey and other shows, but this was a big show. So people saw him as, you know, a proficient feminist. But ultimately, listen, what's interesting as well after yesterday's comments by Ray Fisher, that, you know, Whedon's other people that he's worked with, his cast, you know, people from Buffy, Sarah Michelle Gellar, none of these people have come out in his defense. So that tells a story as well. Now, on Ray Fisher's side, he obviously has felt bad for lying, for saying that everything in the garden is rosy, and this was, Zack chose the right person. And obviously, one of the things that would have stung Ray is that Zack never chose Joss Whedon to take over at all. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Joss Whedon is the devil incarnate. He's not. He's a director who was desperate. He was a writer-director who needed to work. And he was desperate for this project. They offered him the Batgirl project, right? But he had to take his 30 pieces of silver and do some betrayal before he could actually work on that picture. And I've said it before, Whedon has issues with the way he works and the way he tells stories. But if they said, hey, Joss, we are rebooting the DCEU, and the first movie you're going to do is a Justice League movie. If he was able to make his own Justice League movie in his own time, and I've said this before, it maybe would have done well. That's a different story. But to bring someone in and get them to kind of rework somebody else's film was never going to work. And we saw it with Solo, a Star Wars story as well, which was a flop. But at least it was a better executed movie, but then it was Ron Howard. This is what I mean. It depends who you choose. And that's why I was talking about James Gunn. Maybe they would have got away with it with James Gunn, but James Gunn was still at the MCU. He hadn't been sacked yet. They couldn't do that. There was other people that if they came in, they would have got away with it. In a way, we were lucky it was Whedon because we wouldn't have got Zack back if it was someone proficient, right? And so, from Ray Fisher's point of view, he's sitting and saying, I've lied to my fans. I don't feel good about this. He's a good man, right? He's a good young man. And so he said, I'm going to come out and, he's probably gone to Warner Brothers and AT&T, and they've probably said, yeah, if you want to do this, it's part of the hype engine. It just shows the fans that we're on their side, and nobody cares. And everybody knows Whedon's not going to come out and defend himself because cowards don't. And it's a shame. It's a shame because once upon a time, we all thought Joss Whedon was an amazing guy and an amazing creative because whatever you say about him, Buffy and Angel are two of the best TV shows and the most successful of all time. And the first Avengers film was brilliant and was very successful. And it's the reason why we are now totally making superhero films in Hollywood and nothing else. But I don't think he worked on that movie alone. And I think probably that film needed a lot of fixing. And I think there were probably issues there as well. One thing's for sure, Age of Ultron proves that he had more of a creative freedom with Age of Ultron because the film was so successful and they trusted him more. And it all ended in tears. And so when we heard that Whedon was coming to finish off Justice League, I think most of us didn't think much of it. We thought, well, bloody hell, this guy was working on those Avengers movies, and there's problems with people not, some people not liking the DCEU. This could change everything, right? So we all went along with it. I don't think there was any or many dissenting voices about this at first. We didn't know what the plan was. And then when we saw the movie, we realised it was an absolute shit show. And it just goes to show you, we're in a different situation now in Hollywood because Hollywood seems to enjoy exposing itself now, both with creatives coming onto Twitter talking down to the fans, or situations like with Ray Fisher here. If you're going to ask me, was I surprised by his post? I was shocked to my very core. I didn't expect him to do it. It's his choice to do it. I agree with him. It was the right thing to do. I think this is the situation now where this is just a message from AT&T that this will never happen again and that we are here with the creatives to give them freedom and we are going ahead with this multiverse. In other news, we have got the DC Fandom on August the 22nd. And now all the creators who are attending are asking us, the fans and the public, to post our questions on social media. So what will happen is they're getting our questions as I speak. So everyone's going to be doing this at home. There's not a proper dome, right? So there's different panels and they will answer those questions in those panels. Or obviously, they will make official statements. Walter Hamada will answer questions about the future of the DCEU and all this kind of multiverse talk and Keaton talk and all of this. I expect a proper slate. And as I say, Hamada being there changes my attitude towards the DC Fandom. I would have been excited about it, but knowing that Hamada's there, I think this is a real vocal deal to make sure everyone knows where we are at with DC Animated, DC Comics, DC Movies. So there's no misunderstandings and there's no rumours. Now, before I finish for today, I want to go back onto the subject of video on demand, with the news where some cinemas in America will not be opening in the middle of July now. They're postponing it because the UK have already tried to reopen the whole country and they've already closed down Leicester, right? So when you think about these big powers in the world, America and the UK, the worst handled countries in terms of the pandemic, right? It's embarrassing. But it goes back to that subject of movie theatres versus video on demand. Hollywood are going to go bankrupt, and Hollywood are making money still. You know, they're making money off video on demand, you know, royalties, you know, Blu-rays, DVDs, you know, HBO Max, Disney Plus, and you know, and other streaming services like deals they've got with Netflix and Prime Video. So there's money there, but they're losing money from movie releases. And you know, it's time now. It's time to say that even if the pandemic was over right now, there wouldn't be that confidence in movie theatres from all of the public. They couldn't bring home the money they once did. VOD is a clean system where you can watch videos, or should I say films or TV shows. So in terms of movies, let's make Wonder Woman 84 or Tenet a great example. Wonder Woman 84 could be viewed as pay-per-view until 3 or 4 months' time when you can rent and buy it properly, right? So pay-per-view VOD would be easily done. You pay what, 20 to 25 to $50 sterling or euros, right? Whatever price they want to put on it, which makes them the equal profit they would have made in movie theatres. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. It's done. The era of video on demand is here. Yeah, and I know that Universal upsets some movie theatre companies by, you know, doing, was it Trolls Worldwide or whatever it was, right? And they were showing off about the success they had. Why? What is stopping studios and companies just doing this? Because let me assure you, they want to do this, but they're scared about upsetting the public, their consumer. Because at the end of the day, people might want to boycott VOD, which will be stupid. And obviously, if it fails, they don't want to curb the wrath of the movie theatres, right? Because they'll have to go back to them cap in hand. The problem is, movie theatres cannot make the studios the money it once did. It was dying a death anyway. But with the paranoia and the pandemic in America, for example, which is the biggest place for the studios to make money theatrically, right? It's not happening. It's over. Movie theatres are dead. We've spoken about this before. I just want to talk about this now because I believe now is the time that someone announces a big blockbuster for VOD. Because once one person does it and it's successful, and it will be successful, that's the time to do it. Now, I've had this debate before about how movie theatres are the best experience for a movie. It's irrelevant. And I'm not talking about the total extinction of the movie theatres. There will still be movie theatres indoors once this pandemic's over, right? There could be, you know, outdoor movie theatres as well, drive-ins. But they're not going to bring the money that theatres once did for motion picture companies. It's finished. So that can be an income, but not a big one. It's changed. It's changed. The atmosphere has changed now. The environment has changed. And studios need to be brave and say, right, we are not making money. We would have made $1 billion, right, on Black Widow. We would have made just under $1 billion maybe on Mulan. We would have made nearly $1 billion or $1 billion on Wonder Woman 84. We're losing money here. What are we doing? And we're not screwed here. All we have to do is embrace pay-per-view, video on demand, and we're still making $1 billion a picture. So what's the problem? Change is hard to accept. I understand. But, you know, are we going to be like Christopher Nolan, you know, an auteur, writer, director I love and adore, but he wanted to entice people back in cinemas when it wasn't safe. And Chris, that disappoints me. People like Chris have to understand the days of the movie theatre dominating the box office are finished, and video on demand is the future. If I was AT&T right now, I would bite the bullet and put Wonder Woman 84 immediately on video on demand. But of course, we're not going to do that. We're stretching it out to October. And if October's not right, then we're going to go to January, March, July. How long do we do this? How long do these studios want to lose money for? That's the question that I want you to answer down in the comments down below. I think it's time to embrace video on demand and accept that this is the future. I would absolutely, I wouldn't say kill because I don't want this video struck off, right? But I would absolutely love to wake up one morning and find out I can just press a button and watch Wonder Woman 84 for $25 to $35 pay-per-view. Come off it. You're making money. It's a good idea. You are losing money every day. You don't do this, right? It's like, it's like theatres, in the UK. We're talking about the theatre system in the UK. And I'm not talking about movies. I'm talking about live performances. They're all complaining that, theatres and people who work in theatres are losing money. They're losing work. And all they have to do is actually get people to social distance on the stage and, do a Zoom and charge people a ticket to watch the performances. But everyone's just complaining. We are in a pandemic. The world has changed and the entertainment industry needs to change with it. Comment down below. Like, share and subscribe and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DC Daily. See you again soon.